Passing the level 1 CFA exam is a huge accomplishment. It may be the easiest of the 3 tests, but it also holds the lowest pass rate because a lot of people that take it don't take it all that seriously. So if you've cleared level 1, I think it means that you are taking your CFA journey seriously. Maybe not necessarily seriously enough for levels 2 and 3, but definitely more so than all the candidates who inevitably will never make it past the first step. First and foremost, I want to say congratulations, and I'm biased, but I think it's one of the coolest accomplishments out there in this world. But there are still a couple very important points you should know throughout your next couple years in the CFA program. So let's talk about it. Like I said, level 1 is a huge accomplishment, and you may have heard contrary to that from other charter holders or level 2 or level 3 candidates who are like,
oh, I'm studying for level 2 or I'm studying for level 3. Those level 1 losers are all worried about that exam. That thing's a freaking cakewalk.
And all this stuff. If you're hearing any of that, just don't pay attention to it. It's not true. Levels 2 and 3 are more difficult than level 1, but actually, in my opinion, the level 1 exam is the most important step to becoming a charter holder, and it certainly is statistically the most important. We all know that the level 1 exam boasts the lowest pass rates, and that's, again, not because it's the most difficult, but because a lot of people who take it are not all that determined and don't study enough for the exam. But what that low pass rate means is that if you get through the level 1 exam, you're statistically far more likely to become a CFA charter holder than you were when you just signed up for the program. Now, we don't know the exact number of what percentage of candidates who originally enroll in level 1 will eventually become CFA charter holders. The Institute has said that it's less than 20%, but that's all. We know it's probably somewhere a little bit above 10% because of the pass rates between those exams, and they have given some information about how often people retake the tests. I spent way too much time one day on an analyst forum post where someone did all the math and probabilities of the pass rates and how many retakes they think there are to figure out the chances of someone actually becoming a CFA charter holder, and that's about 12%. 12% of people who originally enroll in the level 1 exam will become charter holders in their lives. Now, if you pass the level 1 exam, that probability of ultimately becoming a charter holder jumps to like 33%. I know if you just take the level 2 pass rate, which is normally around 45%, and you just take the level 3 pass rate, which is normally around 53, 54%, I believe, then that 33% probability doesn't make all that much sense, but you have to realize that people retake these exams, and retaking levels 2 and 3 after passing level 1, I think is just got to be more common than someone taking level 1 like 5 times and continuing to fail it. And that's just a hunch, but if I'm right about it, that would mean that statistically the biggest marginal step you can take in improving your probabilities of becoming a charter holder in the future. And I hope this logic acts to motivate you, because it certainly should. You're way closer to becoming a charter holder than you were 6 months ago or 9 months ago when you signed up for the exam, and that's an exciting thing to think about. So again, congratulations. All that being said, you have a far more difficult road ahead of you than what you just accomplished in the prior exam. I have a really old video on this channel called CFA Level 2 versus Level 1 where I get into a lot of detail about how much time I spent studying, the difficulty in the content, the amount of the content, formula memorization, and I also reference a really popular old analyst forum post where there's like 3 dragons, and there's a really little dragon and then 2 giant dragons, and they say this is a representation of the difficulties of the 3 CFA levels, where level 1's obviously the tiny baby dragon, the other ones are like 10 times the size. That's just not true. Maybe don't go back and check out that really early video on my channel because they were really bad then, but I might say the same thing about this video 2 years from now. Anyway, point is that my conclusion in the video is that the level 2 exam is about 30%, maybe 40% more difficult than the level 1 test. Keep in mind though that I studied a whole lot more for the level 2 exam. I think I did 470 hours for the level 1 exam, and I did about 640 hours for the level 2 exam. So with that much more study time, I still felt like it was about 30% more difficult, and if you studied an equal 300 hours for level 1 and level 2, that level 2 exam is going to feel way more difficult than the level 1 did. There's also this rhetoric around the type of learning that you need to do for the level 2 exam. And actually Mark Meldrum is really big on this, so I'm kind of hesitant to disagree with it, but the argument says that level 1 is quick formula memorization, but level 2 is like you have to have deep conceptual understandings of the content to answer the questions right. I agree that level 1 is a lot of quick formula memorization, but I also think level 2 is that as well. It's just that the formulas are longer and more difficult. And maybe it's just the way my brain works, but I didn't perceive all that much of a difference in the way you have to learn or the way you have to think or process information to answer the questions correctly on the level 2 exam versus level 1, other than the questions were a little bit longer, a little bit tougher. So I don't really buy the whole deep conceptual knowledge required thing for the level 2 exam, and that's drastically different from the knowledge required to pass the level 1 exam. I think that's, again, just people trying to sit on their high horse or scare level 1 candidates or people who are just starting off in their CFA journey or whatever. I do have a good friend that's about to take the level 2 exam, and he actually agrees that it requires much much deeper knowledge and understanding of concepts to be able to pass the level 2 exam. So that's why I say maybe it's just my brain that works a little bit differently. But you should know that at least not everyone's in that camp saying that level 2 is 10 times harder than level 1. It's just not that much harder. But again, if you study just 300 hours for the level 2 exam, I'd say you have a really, really high probability of failing it. Another thing to consider is what your score band was in the level 1 results. So were you top 90%, 70 to 90, whatever? I think it shows you a pretty detailed breakdown of that. If you were in the top 30% of level 1 passers, then you should be geared up pretty well for the level 2 exam. But if you were close or anywhere just slightly above passing, statistically, you're in the camp of people who will fail the level 2 exam unless you study way more and way harder than you did for the last one. The last point about the level 2 exam, and you've probably heard me say this in other videos, is that the swap valuation topic in the derivatives book is actually the hardest math you'll ever do in your life. I totally agree with the dragon scenario if it was just applied to the derivatives content, because swap valuations and some of the currency valuation problems in the L2 derivatives book are the most difficult academic problems I've ever tried to work through in my life. I never got close to understanding them while I was a level 2 candidate, and still to this day I'll never understand those questions. Just almost skip that stuff unless you're really good at like calculus and long form math. But the rest of it is not all that much worse than the level 1 content is. Then the level 3 exam, for me, it was actually the most enjoyable level. It did require much more work and much more effort than the level 1 exam. So again, it is a tougher test and you're going to have to be prepared for that. But depending on your line of work, if you're working in wealth management or almost any buy-side investing, the content of the level 3 exam is going to be far more applicable to your work and your career in the future than a lot of the stuff in level 1 and 2. So from the perspective of trying to have some fun while you're studying and learning, or learning information that's going to be knowledgeable to you and that fact giving you kind of some pleasure, like, hey, I might be a better analyst because of the stuff I'm learning here, that makes level 3 the best level to take, in my opinion. Not to mention, level 3 is the last step, and it can really feel like your senior year of high school or your final year of university, or a swan song where you're marching down for the ultimate challenge before the huge accomplishment. And it really is all those things. It's really fun, especially in the last 3 months, 1 month, 1 week before the level 3 exam, knowing that this could potentially be the end of all the studying and suffering that you've had to endure for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years. It's a super exciting feeling to have, and a really cool process to be a part of, the final review process for the level 3 exam. I remember a conversation I had with my parents when I was about 2 months out from the level 3 exam, just reflecting on how much better I had gotten at learning things than I ever was at any point in my life. And I was a good student in high school and an okay student in college, and okay at level 1 and level 2, but I didn't have a deep understanding of how my brain works and how my brain learns. And I was never all that efficient in studying, certainly not in high school. I just didn't do it all that much. I wasn't efficient in college. And through level 1 and 2, I got better and better at it. So by the time I was doing a final review for the level 3 exam, I just felt like I was so mentally sharp and that I could accomplish any mental challenge out there in the world because of how in tune I was at knowing how my brain best learned and making sure to study that way to best teach myself the material that I needed to pass. So I think it's a really cool place to be in life when you're studying for that level 3 exam. You have so much practice on so much advanced finance content, and you could apply that to any other field if you really wanted to. You are just such an efficient learner at that point that it better build some confidence for you. And if it doesn't, you're just not recognizing the fact of how far you've come in your ability towards learning material compared to where you were in high school, college, or for the first 2 levels. So level 3 has a lot of interesting tidbits that come along with it that if you're cognizant of and you ponder about them, it's fun to just be in that place in life. That's a big thing to look forward for. Again, it's way more work than level 1 was. You got to sacrifice more, you got to try harder, you got to get less distracted, and you got to make more of your life the CFA tests. But it's a really cool spot to be at when you get there, especially when you get that congratulations email after taking the level 3 exam and you know that you're going to become a CFA charter holder. There's nothing else in this world like it, in my opinion. You are well on your way after passing the level 1 exam to get to that place that I was so happy to be at one point in my life. If you got to this point in the video, it means you watched the whole thing. Thank you very much for doing that. Please check out the links in the description down below if you want to support me on any third-party sites online. If you could also like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done either of those things yet already. I, of course, would appreciate those things as well. So, as always, thanks for watching.